Hi, welcome back. My name's David Blissett, and in this video we're going to be working with Unity and the specifically Unity XR Interaction Toolkit, and trying to document some of the steps that are required when you're looking to configure teleportation within the environment. So what do we have at the moment? Currently we have the XR Interaction Toolkit fully set up within the environment. In order to get going with that, you're going to want to make sure that as far as packages are concerned, that you have the XR Interaction Toolkit, you've got the XR Plugin Manager, and those are the core packages that must be installed. Once they're installed, then you have the ability to go ahead and drop either a room scale XR rig or a stationary XR rig, depending on what you're doing. It's 2021 now. The Go for Oculus is no longer being supported, so chances are you want to have something rule scale, and this is where you're going to be defining like your guardian when you're within the Oculus environment, so that you're not bouncing into the furniture and things like that, right? The stationary rig was primarily for when you'd only be using teleportation to move around, or you'd be standing in a single stationary location and just moving your head around to be able to see what's going on around you, right? So room scale is what you'd be looking to get configured. And just to show you what that does, if you just go ahead and drop that in, it'll bring in the camera, the main camera here, and the left and right hand controllers. But we've already got one set up in the scene, so I'm just going to undo that, and then we're going to continue the walkthrough. So like I said, we're focused on the teleportation workflow, and what we have in the moment is some of the bits from the actual samples that are provided within the toolkit. And in order to get a better understanding as to the anatomy, I've just kind of broken them up and brought them across into new projects. I can actually kind of figure out what it is that I need and what I don't need, right? The whole principle here is you can configure most of the events for working within VR now without doing much coding. Now that sounds great, but it means that you're doing a lot of UI work, so you're spending more time just trying to make sure that you are getting your inputs as far as the input actions are concerned. So if you've spent any time with Unity in the past year and a half, it's 2021 now, you would have come across this before, and essentially you have the ability to define your actions, and then below each action you can say the kind of device that you want to target. Do you want to target a gamepad? Do you want to target the Oculus headset? Do you want to target the mouse or the keyboard? You have your actions, and then below those actions you can specify what the device is that you want, and you then also have multiple schemes that you can then set up. So you can have a scheme specifically for keyboard or specifically for the gamepad. It just depends on what you're trying to do. And then once you've set all those up, you can hide and show, basically filter out what you want to preview within the space. But that's not the purpose of this video here. The idea is that the actions have already been set up, and we just want to be able to do something like teleportation. So let's get into it. Okay, so we have these 4 teleportation pads within the environment. What is a bit tricky is that the teleportation is twofold, right? So you have the location that you're going to go to, and you have the director or the hand controller that you're going to be using as that pointer to the pad to get you to that location. So those are the 2 configuration areas that you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at setting up the teleportation for the left and right controller, if you're going to have both hands doing teleportation, and then you're going to be setting up the actual locations that you want to teleport to. Okay, so that's one side of things. Getting into it, we'll just go right top to bottom, right? So you set up your layers, and here we have the teleport layer that's going to be important for us. So when the ray is being cast, it knows what to be looking for as that filter, right? We have the usual, so we have here like a mesh filter and also the mesh render, standard configuration if you're doing any 3D UI. And then here we have the teleportation anchor script. Now this is not a script you're going to write. This comes right out of the box with the toolkit, right? The XR interaction toolkit. So you come in here, you wire in your interaction manager. So when you drop the rig into the scene, you also get an interaction manager as well, right? And yeah, there's not much else that you need to do. As long as that's in the scene, you can drag it into that location. You set up your interaction layer mask, which in this instance will be teleport. And you also get a reference to itself or some other position, depending on what you're trying to do. So here, if I double click on that, I can see that this is the same teleport anchor game object, and this is the position transformation information that we're taking from it. And then the rest of this more or less is standard, but in this instant, the teleport trigger based on the event that's going to be coming from the action map is going to be on select exited, right? You have by default these other three that you could be using, but on select exited is what we'll be using, or what I'll be using within this specific mapping, action mapping, right? Okay, so that is when you're trying to set up these pads or whatever teleportation anchor point that you want to be setting up within your scene, right? The next thing we want to go and have a look on is the settings that you get for the left and the right hand. Now this can be different depending on what you're doing, right? But this is how it's been given to us within the sample kit, and so we're going to be sticking with that for the time being. So if I click on the left hand, I can see that it's got both the base controller for the game object and the teleport controller game object. So I can set both of those within that. And then these are the various left hand controller inputs and buttons and whatnot that have been set up for us as far as action mappings are concerned. So it says here controller actions, teleport mode active, cancel, turn, move, translate, rotate. Okay, again, you'll get used to it. You probably, depending on how experienced you are working with the Oculus or whatever device. Remember, when you're talking about the XR interaction toolkit, you're talking about an abstraction layer. So that's a higher layer that you code against, and below it, Unity, they're actually doing the mapping to the umpteen different types of controllers that you could be working with. But again, all of that comes through using the input actions based on Unity's input system, right? I hope that's clear. If it's not clear, it'll become clear once you actually start working with the action mapping. Okay, so that's all that is. So these have been set up for us, and unless you want to be doing something specific with a specific controller, there's no real need to change these, right? These are other events that you can wire up from the user interface. So select state, teleport state, interact state, and these various events. So like enabled, update, exit, enter, so on and so forth, right? And again, you'll know what you want to be mapping when it comes to it. So that's the left hand. The right hand is going to be pretty much the same. It's just a different axis. So now we're going to drill and have a look on the left base controller. So for the base controller, just a quick thing I want to highlight to you before going into detail. So if I select left base controller and then select the line, the left teleport controller, the X-ray interactor is disabled straight out the gate, right? So that's a key difference between the two. Okay, so let's drill into the left base controller first. So we have the XR controller. Again, it's action based, meaning that it's wired up to listen to these events, or the events, not all of them, just the ones that it has slots for, unless you're actually going to be doing some coding. right? It's derived from action-based controller, and we have these settings. Now I'm not going to walk you through all the settings because that's boring. You know, you'll know what you want to be doing, but this is what you get straight out the kit. If I just quickly rock over to the left teleport controller, notice enable input actions is not selected. If I rock back to the base controller, because that obviously that's for teleport, right? So in this instance, this is a base control. So this is for everything else you want to do, whether it's be picking things up in the scene or, you know, hitting something. This is that base controller, the base settings for when you're starting out. So I'm going to now just collapse that. We're going to look on the X-ray settings. Now, one of the important things that you want to be aware of is when you're actually going to be using these various layer masks, and they're quite key. So if I can check this one here, I can see that it's been set up for teleport and for UI on the raycast. However, on the interaction layer mask, it is not. Now if I come back just quickly again, rocking over to the teleport version, it is set up to look at teleport only. And again, for the raycast, it is set up for the teleport and the UI. And again, it's not that it has to be just only those, it just apparently this is how you're going to be doing your setup if you don't want to be trying to reinvent the wheel and give yourself a whole bunch of headaches, right? So let's collapse the XR interactor, the X-ray, yeah, that's what it's called. And I'm going to go back again, and then from there we have a line renderer. So this is what's being shot out into the scene to give us some kind of visual feedback, and also, you know, try and hit the objects and generate events. And then we have the X-ray interactor line visualizer, right? And again, it is what it is. It fires into the scene and it paints the curve that's being pointed at the object that you're pointing at with your device. If I was to come over to the teleporter controller, you just see that the lines is being painted a bit differently, right? But that is literally what the things that you'll need to be making sure you're doing. So let's just quickly have a look at some of the project settings so you don't have to query anything too much. We have UI settings, teleport, and interactable. That's the three that I'll be focusing for in the workload that I'm focused for at the moment, right? We've highlighted that you have your layer settings that you want to set up. But that's going to be more geared towards the actual objects within the scene, right? And that's how you're going to be able to hit those objects and know whether or not, you know, you've hit the right one. So it's going to do what you need to do. So whether it needs to blow up or light up or outline or what have you, or teleport you to that location. So that's it for now, guys. I think we've done a reasonable job of kind of highlighting what it is that you need to get set up when you're looking to do teleportation with the new XR interaction toolkit. Now this is subject to change. This is a beta version that's been put out in the community the past couple of months, I think. We're currently, I think, on version interaction cool. There we go. So it's on a preview version, and we're at version 2 on the preview, right? So that's up to January. And again, this is within 2019. I do know that the 2020 version of Unity does have an equivalent. And again, these are just packages that you need to bring down into the environment and wire them out, just same way as you're doing any Microsoft.NET work. So we're going to leave things there for now. Thanks again for watching. I'm going to be trying to get out some other XR, VR workflows. At this moment in time, I'm not running within the headset because, yeah, that's no fun. I'll be popping that on to the end of the video just to kind of give a preview of, you know, moving through the environment. Nothing exciting, but this is what you have to do if you want to be doing any kind of XR, VR workflow within Unity 2020 in 2021. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.